The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Eastworks, a 500,000 square feet dedicated to artists, entrepreneurs, and nonprofits where community happens. Learn more at eastworks.com.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, Western Mass's many towns and citizens in lights and a new museum exhibit as we head to Deerfield, Memorial Hall Museum's latest collection, Pioneer Valley Picture Show.
But first, after last week's local visits from our official of the 2nd Congressional District, alas, all vacations have come to an end and the House is back in session.
You back in Washington, D.C.?
I am. The crazy week.
It's time once again for our weekly conversation with U.S. Congressman from the 2nd Congressional District of Massachusetts and the ranking member of the Rules Committee, Congressman Jim McGovern, in a segment we like to call McGoverning with McGovern. And the first big story of Congress being back in session after the early dismissal this summer is one of some bipartisan unity, at least, and it has to do, of course, with the Epstein files, where Republican Thomas Massie has filed a discharge petition to release files related to Jeffrey Epstein. It's close to the necessary 218 signatures. Most House Democrats have signed on to this, led by Democrat Ro Khanna, so they've got these bipartisan support for releasing this discharge petition. You signed that petition, I believe, correct?
Yes, I did. I was the second one to sign it.
If this discharge petition were to go through, what would we, the general public, learn that we don't already know? Because one of the things you've been doing in these committee hearings is talking to Republicans about how they've said it's all out there already.
The discharge petition would, in theory, allow us to debate and to vote on a bill that would have the force of law that would require the administration to release the Epstein files. What's happening right now is kind of a sham. And, we're hearing a lot about, thousands of documents have just been released. Well, 97% of what was just released was already in the public domain. So we didn't learn anything from it. And the Republicans, rather than, bringing a resolution to the floor to actually compel the release of these documents, brought forward a fake Epstein resolution, which basically says that the Oversight Committee can continue doing what it's doing. No deadline, no dates, no nothing. So the question is, Trump said he wanted to release this. The MAGA Republicans said they wanted to release. We were told by the Attorney General that these documents were released, but then inexplicably, they're not being released. So what are they hiding? And I'm not making any, assumptions that Trump did something illegal or that there's something that, is going to change the course of our leadership in this country. But the bottom line is they ought to release it. There ought to be transparency. Again, the discharge petition would force this to come up for debate and vote. The Speaker is calling Republican members and telling them not to sign the discharge petition. Trump is calling people and telling them not to sign the discharge petition. 4 Republicans have. And Marjorie Taylor Greene and I don't agree on anything, but we do agree on this, that the file should be released. And I give her credit. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I give her credit for actually being consistent on this issue.
And another thing with Marjorie Taylor Greene that makes this even more of a complicated alliance is that Marjorie Taylor Greene has hatched a plan that would take advantage of some constitutional protections from prosecution or litigation that are afforded to members of Congress by compiling a list and reading them on the House floor. Are you in support, if this discharge petition fails, of going this Marjorie Taylor Greene route and doing what the frankly the very brave survivors did on the steps of the Capitol yesterday and threatened to release these names themselves, despite the fact that they may face some prosecution or litigation? You and Congress could be immune from this.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to join in reading the names if the names are compiled. For anybody who watched the press conference of the survivors, it is heartbreaking, it is horrifying, it is unconscionable what they endured. And on top of all of that, they were intimidated and they were threatened that if they were to come forward, that they would be sued by very rich and powerful people who would force them, into poverty. And they're still afraid. Clearly, Jeffrey Epstein operated, with a group of people, some of the richest, most influential people in the world. Clearly, it takes a lot of courage to come forward and for these survivors to actually speak publicly. Look, we have a lot of differences, in this country. We're very polarized, but we all agree that sex trafficking, that the exploitation of children, that pedophilia is awful, intolerable, and wrong. And we ought to make sure that we're not giving a pass to people who are well off and well connected. And that's kind of what's at stake here. And then the other thing that is questionable is Trump's attorneys talking to Ghislaine Maxwell in a way that is not like a cross-examination. But after she says that Trump didn't do anything, she gets transferred to a cushy country club prison. And that could not have happened without people in this administration okaying that. Why did that happen, and why did it happen at that time? So there's lots and lots of questions here. Clearly, this doesn't smell right. Somebody's hiding something. We got to just get to the truth, and that's what this is all about, and I hope we can have that vote. By the way, even if we get the 218 signatures, the Speaker of the House could probably use some procedural maneuvers to try to derail our ability to have a debate and a vote on it. But I think that would create such national outrage that it would not be sustainable. But he might try to do that.
But even if he did, Marjorie Taylor Greene's plan could work where you, as the members of Congress, could just begin, like the Pentagon Papers were done this way as well, right? Where they were just read on the floor of Congress. So this is, I think, we're on the cusp of finding out this information one way or the other, it seems.
The only thing is whether it is an all-inclusive list, and and whether everybody who has been wronged in this case will come forward. And again, this is not over. And for the president to call this a Democratic hoax and to say that Republicans who go along are stupid, that's his exact quote, and to say that this is irrelevant. The sex trafficking of these women is somehow irrelevant. I mean, really, that a president of the United States would say that is pathetic and disgusting.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, McGoverning with McGovern. College is back in session. You have many universities in the 2nd Congressional District, including Clark University in Worcester, where my son Enzo just started. Thanks for all the tips on good places to check out in Worcester. We have not gotten to them yet, but I'm excited to. And meanwhile, just outside your district, Harvard has won a major federal victory, restoring $2.6 billion in federal funding. Is this free speech on campus fight with the federal government and federal funding over? And what are you hearing from universities in the 2nd Congressional District about this victory, at least for now?
Yeah, well, I was disappointed that Harvard tried to settle with the administration. I was disappointed that Columbia did. I mean, this is about academic freedom, and I get it. I mean, all these universities want to protect their precious grant dollars that, number one, should not be under threat because of academic freedom. But when you negotiate and you cave to people like the people in this administration, you're setting a precedent. I think the court decision is a welcome one, but it's not over yet. We all worry about what happens when things get to the Supreme Court. One of the things I'm worried about right now is that I think institutions in general are too silent and are too fearful of pushing back because they are afraid that they will be punished, that they will be the victim of retribution. And I understand that. But if we don't push back, if we don't have these important fights, and in the short term, you may end up paying a price. But in the long term, I mean, this is about what kind of country we want to be.
Earlier this week, Congressman, the president said that U.S. forces killed 11 people in a strike on a boat in the southern Caribbean that was allegedly transporting drugs from Venezuela. He posted a video that said he depicted the attack. Venezuela said that video was AI. Couple this with what has been going on where you are right now in Washington, D.C., with the National Guard taking over, and now the idea that the president would send troops either to Chicago, as he would like to, but more likely to New Orleans, where the governor there is more sympathetic. What is your take on this continued overreach of the U.S. military? Was that strike on that Venezuelan boat legal for what the president has to do as the commander-in-chief, or is that something that is extrajudicial, is above and beyond his powers?
Well, I think it's extrajudicial. We're still trying to learn more details about what happened, but from what I've been able to gather, we're not even sure that boat, if it had drugs on it or not, was headed for the United States or not. Some reports say it was headed, for the Bahamas. We're trying to learn more about it, but we have checks and balances in place for a reason, so that you don't have a rogue president, that goes, off on a tangent here, that on one hand says people say, well, no big deal, but what does it lead to? Why wasn't Congress consulted? Why, if we want to change our policies, we got to have a debate and we got to have votes on these things. And as far as the troops and the National Guard in D.C., I mean, I came back to D.C. on Monday, and I walk to work every morning, 13 blocks, and I see the National Guard walking around picking up garbage on the side of the street, and having coffee. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit intimidating, but it's not a long-term answer for crime. There's a finite period that they're here, and so what happens when they leave? this administration and this Republican Congress has cut funding for community policing. It's cut funding for summer job training programs. It's cut funding for programs to help people deal with addiction and substance use disorder challenges. It's cutting money for health care. I mean, I go right down the list. I mean, if you want to solve crime and you want to make our community safer, it's an all hands on deck approach. And it's not just by deploying the military, for a few weeks or a few months in one spot, and then taking them away. You could make an argument that there's a low crime rate in North Korea or in China. Well, they're police states. And I don't think we want to go down that road. Is crime a legitimate issue? Yes. But the answer to combating crime is not this. It's a more thoughtful and a more detailed approach, which, quite frankly, Trump is not willing to have or to fund. And neither is, we're cutting everything that makes a difference.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, speaking of crime, do you think drug runners should be considered terrorists? That it seems to be the argument that they're using, and it's an argument that has been put forward, I think, since the Reagan administration, really, that if people are bringing drugs into this country, that is some form of terrorism, thus the military could be used. Is that a valid strategy for fighting drugs and crime?
Yeah, I don't even know what that means, right? I mean, we use the word terrorist very loosely. Is it a criminal, horrific activity that people are trying to bring drugs into our country? Yes. Do we need to do more to combat it? Yes. But there are ways to deal with this and there are ways not to deal with this. I don't even know whether this story that the administration is telling is true or not. I just don't trust them. But, we'll see. And maybe it is true. But, how do you deal with drugs coming from different countries? Maybe you engage those countries, even countries that we don't have a good relationship with. We don't have a good relationship with Venezuela. That doesn't mean that there isn't room for coordination and cooperation. Are you going to just drop bombs on every motorboat that leaves the coast of Venezuela? The drug problem is a serious problem that we need to combat. But merely labeling these people as terrorists, that word is thrown around so loosely, and we ought to just agree that it is a terrible thing, that we need a strategy, but it needs to be a thoughtful strategy. And having a military drop bombs on motorboats, I don't think that that's a strategy, and I think we're going down a slippery slope, because where do you draw the line? There's just so many unanswered questions here. One of the things I would just urge people to reflect on is that for all of Donald Trump's tough talk, and we're this and we're that, and then his embrace of Putin and all these nice words about tin horn dictators all around the world. Look what's happening. We are increasingly isolated in the world. The tariff policies even isolating our friends. And you see this big gathering in China with Xi and Putin and Kim Jong-un and Prime Minister Modi. It doesn't seem like all this tough talk is intimidating, or calming the world at this particular point. It seems to be having the opposite effect. Maybe this is the time to rethink what we're doing.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, Congress is in charge of the purse strings, allegedly, and there is a bipartisan way of looking at appropriations that seems to be going forward here, where the appropriations chairs in the House, Tom Cole, and in the Senate, Susan Collins, want to pass a 3-year bill funding the Department of Agriculture, the legislative branch, plus military facility funding and veterans programs, and a short-term resolution for some of the other remaining bills. Some top Democrats have been supporting this bipartisan plan. Are you supporting this bipartisan plan to keep the government funded at least to this level?
Look, I don't want the government to shut down. I want the government funded. I don't want any poison pills in any of these bills. But here's the deal. I need guarantees that the Republicans are going to keep their word. We supported budgets previously that funded USAID. The administration just unilaterally, and I think illegally, ended all of that. We passed budgets, and then the Republicans bring rescission packages to the floor to cut programs that help feed hungry people around the world. And to help deal with some of the problems that we have in this country. So if we're going to have a negotiated budget deal, I need more than just a wink that we passed this, because I don't know what you're going to do next week. Are you going to go back on your word and try to defund all the things that I think are important, but you needed my vote to get to a comprehensive deal, and you're going back on your word? We're seeing the president with these pocket rescissions, and again, I think it's all illegal, but Republicans in the House are not saying a word. I'm always willing to negotiate. I mean, I think shutting down the government is a failure. But last time I checked, the president is a Republican. The House is run by Republicans. They have the majority. The Senate has a Republican majority. The idea that somehow if the government shuts down, it's Democrats' fault is ludicrous. You want our votes, then negotiate with us and negotiate in good faith. And by the way, there's talk about trying to move another farm bill. I'm happy to talk to you about another farm bill, but I'm not going to sign off on a farm bill until you fix the cuts in SNAP. The $200 billion cuts in SNAP that's going to increase hunger in this country. Until you address that, don't talk to me about supporting a farm bill. And I'm not going to be bought off by you sending a few extra dollars to food banks, because you can't food bank your way out of this. We have some hard choices ahead, but we can't be cheap dates, and we just can't cave or go along to get along.
That being said, do support the Food Bank of Western Mass when we do the March for the Food Bank in November. All of those details
Absolutely.
coming out shortly.
And let me just say, food banks have taken a hit because of the administration's unilateral cutbacks. And even, before the cuts in SNAP and before the cuts in food banks, again, food banks are essential, but they alone cannot end hunger in this country.
You can hear it from the food bank themselves. They will tell you the same thing. Congressman, last question for you. What is giving you hope this week now that Congress is back in session, you're back in D.C., and the work begins again for this new school year?
Look, I listened to those survivors yesterday. I thought was powerful and inspiring. I mean, the courage it took for these women to get up and to speak publicly about what they endured is unbelievable. And they know that there are very rich and powerful men that, can, bring their money and all of their power to bear to try to destroy them. And yet they spoke up anyway. And, let that be an example for all of us that this is a moment for courage as well as for truth. And but I thought they were incredibly inspiring and gave me a lot of hope.
U.S. Congressman from the 2nd Congressional District of Massachusetts joins us every week, McGoverning with McGovern. You can send a question for Congressman Jim McGovern to us at thefab413@nepm.org, and I'll ask him on your behalf. Thanks as always, Congressman.
All the best. Thanks.
And now to see our neighbors and some of the neighboring towns on screen at Memorial Hall Museum's latest exhibit, which opens tomorrow.
We see the Pioneer Valley Picture Show up close with museum curator Ray Radigan and Turners Falls director Bob Kriskowski next.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
I don't know if I've ever heard a real Edison Victrola before, except for in the movies.
Sounds like a Three Stooges song.
Oh, wise guy, eh? Got the new Sabrina Carpenter in there?
It's funny because Edison, we learned this in researching it, that Edison, his musical tastes were very conventional even for his time, but he was such a control freak that he had to pre-approve every song that went on one of his records. And so it actually kept his sales down because his competitors were using more contemporary music. So it wasn't until his son basically took over his business that they started getting like jazz and big band in there and they started selling more.
Thomas Edison today.
Aha.
Foreshadowing.
Hey, that's a good movie trope. We are back at Memorial Hall Museum in Deerfield, the only museum that I have ever been featured in as an exhibit.
Wait, what?
The
Green River Festival
one. Yeah. Where they talked about my historic fight with Nico Case. Thanks for curating me into exhibit, Assistant Director and Curator Ray Radigan.
We're here to help.
You get to brag as a dad when you show your kids you're in a museum. One of my kids' favorite people is in a museum right now, Turners Falls' own, the man behind The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot, the movie that took over downtown Turners Falls with the star Sam Elliott back in 2017, is that when it was?
Yeah, 17.
Bob Kriskowski.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
How's your own baby?
Good. Yeah, a year and a half tomorrow? Yeah.
Bob's a new dad, year-and-a-half-old baby Milo. But we're here to see the Pioneer Valley Picture Show.
2 more days.
What is the Pioneer Valley Picture Show, Ray Radigan?
It is the history of movie making in the Pioneer Valley.
Bob, as a filmmaker, has contributed to this exhibit and is now in a museum. It belongs in a museum.
It belongs in a museum. So do you!
Well, this is the sort of thing that actually does belong in a museum instead of like taking national treasures from quote-unquote underdeveloped countries and putting them in your own.
Right.
For safekeeping. Also, are you rubbing in the fact that I'm the only one not in a museum?
Not yet. This opens this Saturday. It'll go through Halloween. Walk us through what you're showcasing here, Ray.
So right now, we've kind of divided things up by theme. So we've got drama, we've got action, we've got television, animation, silent films, all sorts of genres, going back to the first film that was, at least the first known film, made in the Pioneer Valley, which was back in 1910. Thomas Edison showed up with a camera crew and a bunch of extras, and they filmed what they called A Nunco's Vow, which was about 18 minutes long, and it tells a fictionalized story of an indigenous man and his undying devotion for the Puritan settlers, which was a very fictionalized tale. That being said, they had historical censors and everything because they wanted it to be historically accurate. And it's set against the backdrop of the famous 1704 raid on Deerfield.
Wow.
Except they kind of got the winner of the battle wrong. And it didn't stop there.
It's funny about Edison being so artsy. I mean, you think of Edison as an inventor, but he was involved in those picking which music was going to be on his Edison Victrola. He seems like he's the writer-director of this first film filmed here.
He did a lot. This was actually part of, well, he had his own film company, and he was doing a series of, major events in American history. So that's how he ended up in Deerfield.
Wow. This part that we're looking at right now seems to focus on some of the actors of note who are from this area.
So we are standing in the television section right now. It's mostly contemporary, as obviously TV doesn't go that far back to 1910. But yeah, most of our local TV history is actors and some behind-the-scenes people. Sherry Thomas is a big deal casting director who's worked on a lot of major productions: Breaking Bad, Handmaid's Tale, Barry, The Walking Dead. And then we have, a number of actors who have been in those and other productions. And then we also have some local filming of TV that's happened around here. Mainly Dexter Newblood filmed a number of scenes in Sunderland, in Shelburne Falls, and in Whately at the Whately Diner.
Yeah, they still have that painting on the side of the Whately Diner, so you can see the truck stop decal.
Caldwell's Truck Stop.
Our buddy Elizabeth Perkins featured over there, who was in Weeds.
Indeed.
And in the movie Big. Mm-hmm. And then Ebon Moss-Bacharach, who's won all these Emmys now, and is from Amherst. I've tried to talk to your parents and convince you to come on the show, so if they are listening to this now, poke him. He's now the Thing in the Fantastic Four.
I mean, some of the people, we started doing this research a little over a year ago, and there are a couple of people who have just become megastars during that period of research.
Yeah, including Ebon Moss-Bacharach, who is not only in Fantastic Four, he's famous for The Bear at this point, which he's so fantastic on, but was also in Andor, lest we forget. Bob Kraskowski's new favorite TV show.
It's very good.
He's writing a manifesto. Apparently the only thing keeping us from liberty is a few more ideas.
Let's go look down here.
Animated television over here.
Oh.
And so, the biggest name we have in animated television is June Foray from Springfield. She did the voice of Rocky in The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle.
We got some great things on the show today.
The main character in The Smurfs.
There must be some other way to surprise those Smurfs.
She did Cindy Lou Who in How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Why are you taking our Christmas tree?
Yeah, she was, and she's actually hugely responsible for there being an Academy Award for animation, because for decades there wasn't, and she lobbied for it for a long time.
I love the quote here from Chuck Jones. June Foray is not the female Mel Blanc. Mel Blanc was the male June Foray.
Seriously. And right below her, George S. Irving, who's most famous for voicing Heat Miser in The Year Without a Santa Claus.
Oh, yeah.
I'm too much.
Yep, he also did, he was the narrator of every episode of The Underdog Show.
I'm surprised you glossed over the writer for The Simpsons.
Speaking of animation.
And Parks and Rec.
Mike Scully, where is he from? I didn't know.
West Springfield.
Oh, now I never knew that. I know the name, of course, but I didn't know that he was from West Springfield.
Further proof that we have the real Springfield in The Simpsons.
Aha!
Springfield, why not?
We got Penn Jillette featured over here in his Simpsons form. And what is that other one there?
Futurama form.
Futurama, oh yeah. Penn Jillette from Greenfield originally. Famous magician.
So silent film over here. But yeah, our local heroes when it comes to movies go all the way back to even before the silent era, where vaudeville was the name of the game. Famous vaudevillians like Eva Tanguay, who was from Holyoke. Actually, most of our silent film stars happen to be from Holyoke. Pauline Curley, Ormy Hawley, all from Holyoke, and all went on to play pretty big roles in the silent film era. Unfortunately, going back to the teens, most of those films physically no longer exist. So we have records that they were in, like Ormy Hawley was in, she was in about 400 films, and 2 are still in existence.
Wow. The Eva Tangway quote is, Eva Tangway is the perfect American artist, says Aleister Crowley. Yes!
Mr. Crowley!
I didn't know Cecil B. DeMille was from Ashfield.
That is why the Ashfield Film Festival exists. And if you win the Ashfield Film Festival, you get a baby Cecil B. DeMille statue.
Yep.
But do you know about the history of Cecil B. DeMille here in Ashfield? Ray Radigan from Memorial Hall in Deerfield?
So yeah, I know. We actually went out to the Belding Memorial Library in Ashfield to see the baby Cecil sculpture.
But he was basically just born here, and then that was it, right?
I think the family vacationed there a lot, so he would come back and forth. But yes, he was not strictly from Ashfield.
Is there just the one statue and they pass it around like the Stanley Cup?
I think it is. We can ask them because I think we're going to book them to come on the show again
That's
soon.
true.
And our friend Harry Karamidis, who lives in Ashfield, film editor, who edited all 3 Back to the Future movies, was very much, now he's emeritus at the Ashfield Film Festival. We did a thing with Harry Karamidis at the Shea with Bob Kraskowski here.
Great Scott!
Bob, what is standing out to you about what we've seen so far?
Well, I think it's pretty amazing. There was a Disney animator lived in Greenfield, and Grace Huntington, animator from Springfield. It's really fascinating to look at all this.
Continuing to walk through the Pioneer Valley Picture Show feature here at the Memorial Hall Museum in Old Deerfield. And now we've gotten more into the props and cameras and costumes, etc. What are we looking at over here, Ray Radigan, Assistant Director and
We're in
Curator?
the heart of the exhibit here. We walk the red carpet, and the first thing you come to...
Yeah, real red carpet.
Real red carpet, yes. The first thing you come to is really just an introduction to kind of the movie theaters. Like, we've got this case that's set up with a lot of things donated very generously by Tower Theaters in South Hadley, and they've donated all sorts of novelty popcorn buckets, candy, film reels.
You didn't get the Dune bucket.
We didn't. I'm so sorry.
Mine's already occupied.
At least I know Gabe.
You did get a Black Panther one, though.
We got a Black Panther because we have a connection to Black Panther, which we will get to.
Ah, yes.
We had Black Panther and Snow White because our animator worked on, actually we had several people who worked on the original Snow White.
Wow. What else are we looking at over here?
All right, so this is our comedy section. We went into this project about a year ago knowing about 10% of what we actually discovered. But the main thing we knew is that, hey, we were here when they filmed The Holdovers directly behind our building. We rented space to Paul Giamatti and company to do it.
Man's every impulse and appetite, from the disgusting to the sublime, is on display right here.
I'm not a movie maker by any means. I remember sitting out my office window watching them film the final scene of the movie where he drives away in the car, and I was like, oh, this is so cool, I get to watch it. And they go around the block and do it again. I'm like, all right, they got 2 takes. And then they go a 3rd take and a 4th take, and I'm like, I gotta go back to work.
Oh my God. When they were filming the Mel Gibson movie in downtown Northampton, I watched him walk down the stairs of the old courthouse. Just walk down the stairs. It must have been 50 times. And I was like, this is the most boring job in the whole world. Is it the most boring job, Bob Kraskowski, filmmaker?
You exhibit patience.
Why would they do that? Why would they have to do it so many times? Is it really going to be that much better?
If they were talking, it might have been trying to get the line right. If it was lots of extras, they might have been trying to match the coverage. If it was lots of different angles. I mean, I can't imagine why somebody walking down the stairs 40 times needed to happen, but I'm sure there was a good reason.
It's probably a big budget Mel Gibson, so it didn't matter. The time was probably not an issue.
I believe that was Martin Campbell that directed that, who directed one of my favorite James Bond movies, GoldenEye.
Nice.
And he also went on to do Casino Royale later, which is also one of the best James Bond movies.
Excellent. The Holdovers, though, where we're looking at the comedy section here, I think it's become like an instant holiday classic. And Paul Giamatti was just at Tanglewood last week doing Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me.
I was there.
Oh, nice. We tried to get him on the show, but he turned us down.
Not cool.
Boo, Paul Giamatti.
I am not drinking any alone.
Up next, we explore the comedy portion of the Pioneer Valley Picture Show, including the museum itself on screen.
And the woman who has a giant mural honoring her work just around the corner from the NEPM studios and my house.
Plus, our guest director, Bob Kraskowski, gave us insight into his own corner of the exhibit, featuring props from his movie, The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, dedicated to creating access to financial well-being for local people, businesses, and communities. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
Continuing to walk through the Pioneer Valley Picture Show feature here at the Memorial Hall Museum in Old Deerfield. Where else do you want to take us, Ray?
All right, so we got our whole comedy section. Like I said, holdovers is a big part of it. We have everything from, signed script from Divine Joy Randolph, who won the Best Supporting Actress Oscar for the movie.
Oh, nice.
As well as, photos from our own staff who were here when they were shooting the picture. To see kind of some behind the scenes, we have literally looking at a picture of them trucking in snow, because it's a movie that takes place at Christmas, and they filmed that scene at the end of March, and there was not a lot of snow left. But yeah, then we also have, we have Don't Look Up. A couple of scenes from that were filmed in Chicopee at the Air Force Base.
Oh no, here they come, the Wu-Tang Shogun. Killer to my eardrum, put the needle to the groove.
And former Greenfield resident Joe DeLude II, Broadway makeup designer, did the makeup for that as well.
Super Troopers 2, they filmed the scene down at Belchertown at the Quabbin. And then we have a couple of people like Eleanor Powell, who is from Springfield, and she was a huge star in the 1930s and 40s, most famous as a tap dancer. She tap danced alongside Fred Astaire.
We're at Memorial Hall in Old Deerfield for the Pioneer Valley Picture Show exhibit, which opens this Saturday and will run through Halloween, highlighting all the parts of movies that were made here in the Valley.
As we said earlier, we have a connection to Wakanda Forever in the Black Panther movies, and that connection is probably our most decorated Oscar winner from the Pioneer Valley, and that's Ruth E. Carter from Springfield. She's the costume designer who won the Oscar for both of the two Black Panther movies. She was also nominated for a couple of other movies. She's worked on a lot of things besides Black Panther. Selma, Malcolm X, Amistad, Coming to America, the sequel. She worked on Roots, the 2016 adaptation of it. And we're very fortunate that we were able to work with her and her team to get two of her original costumes on loan to the exhibit. So we have from Coming to America this gorgeous blue dress that was worn by the Queen Lisa character in the movie.
I should have known about this.
I was only trying to do what is right.
For our family or for Zamunda?
We got a nice picture of her with Eddie Murphy in the film. And then just to the right of that, we have the costume worn by Forrest Whitaker when he played the fiddler in Roots. And so we are very excited to have these because these are authentic, they're not off-the-shelf stuff.
It's amazing to see her work up close. It stands out on screen, period. But seeing some of the detail up close is really amazing.
Yeah.
Learning a bit about her and her process, and we had her curator come and help us install the costumes, and she's showing us these details that she says don't even show on screen, but Ruth is such a craftswoman that she puts in these details that you can only see when you're standing, maybe 6 or 12 inches away from the costume. And she said in a lot of them, there are even these elaborate linings inside the costume that you would never see unless they're exhibited in such a way that they are on display. In between the two costumes, we have, being from Deerfield, we have a lot of kind of historical-based films filmed in the area. In Deerfield specifically, they filmed the 1994 adaptation of Little Women, a couple of scenes from that here in Deerfield.
Oh, really? The Winona Ryder one was filmed here?
We have a specific print showing the center of Old Deerfield with their label on it that says Concord, Massachusetts. Liars.
Filmmakers are all liars, aren't they, Bob Kraskowski?
Yes, everyone that I know in Turner's will come up and say, when he leaves the bar, he walks like a quarter mile. There's no easy way to describe this. Essentially, the geography is all cheated so that you can tell the story.
Yeah, you cheated the geography of downtown Turner's. If you're from there, you know that doesn't work.
Yeah, he could have just crossed the street to the parking lot from the bar.
Every time that every TV show is this is New York, it's Vancouver. This is Boston, it's Vancouver.
We doubled the Canadian wilderness, Poland, Germany, Russia, all within 10 minutes of Turner's Falls. So when you watch that movie, the only time we ever actually left Turner's Falls or Greenfield or Gill was to go to Lenox for Hitler's Castle.
Which is Ventfort Hall, right?
Which is Ventfort Hall, which is where they shot the Cider House Rules. So if you ever see the Cider House Rules, it's
Hitler's
been
house.
Taken over by Hitler.
Well, we're gonna go take it back.
Wow. It's really interesting to see the clips from the older movies because it's oh yeah, Northampton does not look like that anymore. Kathy Cross doesn't even exist exist anymore. And that's before like that building got the big mural on it. And it's an interesting moment of like where our local history is too when films come in to take all their footage to put in something else entirely.
Yeah, so we have a video that's playing. It's kind of a clip show. It shows on site, kind of where things have been filmed locally. It also shows, some clips from our local actors and then some that are behind the scenes people have worked on as well.
Let's move over down here where we're getting closer to where Bob Kraskowski is in a museum. There he is. Look at that hunk. Turner's Falls, Bob Kraskowski, born 1984, writer, director, producer. Robert Kraskowski began his storytelling career by writing and illustrating Elsie Hooper, a comic that ran in the Daily Collegian at UMass that opened the door to the filmmaking industry for Kraskowski. Well, I'm going to skip that part. Rather than move to Hollywood, Kraskowski... I don't want to read the whole exhibit to you. Rather than move to Hollywood, Kraskowski chose to base his production company, Makeshift Pictures, in Turner's Falls. The location hasn't limited Kraskowski. In 2025, he will begin filming his adaptation of Grendel, which will star Bryan Cranston, Dave Bautista, and Jeff Bridges. Pretty cool. We may need to adjust that timeline a tiny bit.
Yeah.
2026.
2026, yeah.
Tell us what you have donated to this exhibit here, Bob.
We have Sam Elliott's quintessential costume from the movie with the leather bomber jacket, which we had two costume designers that teamed up on this, Michael Bevins and Carol Cutshaw. Michael made that jacket from scratch. I watched him cutting all the pieces of leather and bringing it together, and it was all kind of inspired by Norman Rockwell paintings. So when you look at a Rockwell painting, you were supposed to immediately think of Sam's character, Calvin Barr, living in this small town in Massachusetts. And then next to it, we have the Bigfoot costume, which can stretch to like 6.5 feet tall. And then also...
How is that possible?
It's all just latex. It was made by Spectral Motion, great company in Los Angeles, run by Mike Elizalde, who did Hellboy. It stretches to a great height, and then my wife had to double as the Bigfoot at one point to bite off Sam Elliott's ear because we didn't get that shot, so a 5'2" person went into the costume at another point.
But who played the Bigfoot most of the time?
That was Mark Steger, who played the Demogorgon on Stranger Things.
You also worked special effects-wise with another legend of filmmaking in Western Mass, right?
Yeah, our dear friend Douglas Trumbull was the executive producer on the film and contributed visual effects and worked closely with me in the producing of the film, and then his longtime creative partner Richard Urasich, and they had done together 2001: A Space Odyssey, Blade Runner, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. They were incredible mentors and friends, and I still catch up with Richard often. Sadly, Doug passed a few years ago, but there's a lot of people out here who love him a lot, so I hope they all are thinking of him right now.
Yeah. Given how much Nazi shit was in your movie, I'm glad there's not a ton of it in the exhibit, because it is chilling to have to see. But what did you bring here?
I mean, that gun is ridiculous.
It's awesome.
That's the makeshift gun, which took a team of people to figure out how to kind of engineer it so it would all click together and work for the movie. I mean, it had to actually work on screen, which is easy to write on page. When you write something like a makeshift gun, you just go, yeah, somebody will figure it out. And then you watch 7 people sweating over a box of parts and bolts and things and trying to figure out we have to get this on screen in 6 hours.
You gave people a MacGyver problem and they had to MacGyver their way out of it.
Exactly. And so Brett Hatcher and his team just did a remarkable job with the production design, and Josh, who ran a lot of the props, sat sweating over that. And then it shows up on screen and it works brilliantly.
I don't want to spoil it, but it is in the title. It is the makeshift gun that is used to kill Hitler.
It is. That is the gun that shot him once in the chest and then...
Let people go out and watch the movie, Bob.
There's also a jar of buttons where he gets rid of his medal in his claws. His war medal goes into that in the early part of the movie. And then the Uncle Sam poster that he reveals to Hitler, letting him know you're about to die.
And it's, I think, very fitting that right next to your picture in this exhibit is one of your, favorite actors.
Yeah, we do Cinema Storm together at the Shea Theater, which
meaning you and I do.
You and I do it. Yeah. Double feature series, and I would say Kurt Russell's got to be one of the actors we've shown the most movies from.
Have you paid your dues, Jack? Yes, sir. The check is in the mail.
If people don't know, why is Kurt Russell featured in this exhibit, Ray Radigan from Memorial Hall?
Kurt Russell was born in Springfield.
Woo!
I don't think he stuck around for that long because he was in movies by the time he was 10 years old.
Yeah,
but
right. He was in a movie with Elvis, so that kind of gives you a timeline of Kurt Russell when he was acting. Yeah.
Oh yeah, his first movie appearance was an uncredited role of him as a kid kicking Elvis in the shin.
And then he later played Elvis in, I think, a TV movie for John Carpenter.
I watched that version of it, and it's one of the best Elvis biopics that exists, in my opinion. I was obsessed with Elvis as a kid, and as much as Big Trouble in Little China was like my Kurt Russell, so was Elvis. Another actor worth noting that's featured in this exhibit is
Amherst's own Uma Thurman.
This is Jack Rabbit Slims. An Elvis man should love it.
Come on, man, let's go get a steak.
You can get a steak here, Daddy-O. Don't be a...
Uma Thurman, unlike Kurt Russell, did spend a great deal of time here.
Yeah, I believe she went to Northfield Mount Herman for a while, too. Like, she was here through high school.
What is the name of the move that ultimately kills Bill?
This was one of the quiz questions at CinemaStorm last week, and I didn't correctly say it, but is it the 5-point exploding heart technique?
The 5-point exploding palm.
5-point exploding palm technique. I was so close.
Plan A taught you the 5-point palm exploding heart technique. Of course he did.
More coming up in Deerfield at Memorial Hall Museum's latest exhibit, Pioneer Valley Picture Show.
As we explore the work of one of the area's most prolific artists and put a few upcoming projects on our radar that will feature Western Mass locations and folks.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar in Hatfield, offering personalized solar energy solutions and ongoing customer care, proudly serving communities throughout the Pioneer Valley. Northeast-solar.com.
We're at Memorial Hall in Old Deerfield for the Pioneer Valley Picture Show exhibit, which opens this Saturday and will run through Halloween. What other cool things you want to show us here, Ray Radigan?
We have our drama section over here, which actually encompasses a lot because a lot of what's filmed around here are dramas. Some of the bigger names are Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which was filmed at Smith College and also in Southampton. We have The Judge, which was filmed primarily in Shelburne Falls, though Sunderland and Millers Falls also make significant appearances in there. Darius Martyr from Conway, the writer and director of Sound of Metal, is featured in the exhibit. More recently, Janet Planet was filmed all over Western Mass. And would you like to read the quote, or should I?
Read it, Ray.
Janet Planet came from another world, Western Massachusetts, said the Washington Post.
They're not wrong.
We mentioned earlier the Saturn House Rules. Scene from the Saturn House Rules was filmed at the Northfield Drive-In.
Oh, yeah. Which I spent a good deal of time at this summer. I love that place.
Did you go see Goonies and Jaws?
No, you didn't either. It was too cold.
Yeah, with a 1.5-year-old, I was worried he was gonna.
I thought you were gonna take my 12-year-old, but
we were almost gonna go. I felt bad. I texted Pax. Sorry, next time.
And our thriller wall over here, which encompasses not only traditional thrillers, but legal thrillers and things like that. In Dreams was filmed Northfield, Northampton, and seen in Whately. What else do we have here? Malice. Malice, the intro scene to Malice from 1993 was filmed in downtown Northampton, and that's one of those that Khalees was just talking about, where you look at it and you're like, I recognize that, but it does not look like that today.
Although there's the truck-eating bridge right there.
I mean, that's never going to change. They would take so much money to get rid of that and move the trains. No, just be careful, truckers.
If you look at early Ninja Turtle comics, they use this bridge a lot and then draw New York City around it. But in some of the early ones, you will see the truck-eating bridge.
That is funny.
And probably the most bizarre movie, which we were not familiar with, but filmed all over Western Mass, was from 1975 called The Reincarnation of Peter Proud, which in short, and I haven't seen it, but from what I've read, it's about this character who has died and has to figure out, he's having these dreams, he's come back to life, he's having these weird dreams, and he's trying to figure out where these dreams are coming from. Turns out it's Springfield.
Where dreams are made.
Don't say that out loud. They'll come up with another tagline for the city.
City of Homes.
Oh my God.
City of Firsts. Where reincarnation of Peter Proud is calling from.
I know I've been here before.
Jeff, she thinks you're her son. The reincarnation of Peter Proud.
We're also talking about people who have just recently become megastars, and add to that list Megan Fahey, who was in I think it was season 2 of The White Lotus, and she's now the lead in Drop, which I believe just came out a couple of months ago.
And Chloe Sevigny has connections here?
She is from Springfield.
What? Outside of Kurt Russell, perhaps our most prolific person in film in the area
is?
Ken Burns.
Who, of course, we're self-serving by pumping up because we're PBS. And he has like a lifetime contract with PBS, or he did. We don't know what that status is right now, but he has lots of connections here. Tell us about the Ken Burns connection, what you've got featured here at this exhibit.
Yeah, so Ken Burns went to Hampshire College.
He also helped to save it a couple of years ago.
Absolutely, yes. And then he founded Florentine Films, which was named for Florence, Mass. So we're kind of focusing on Ken's earlier career, because that's when he was in the Pioneer Valley. He since decamped to New Hampshire. But so focusing on, like, say, the Brooklyn Bridge, which is his first documentary, which he made on that camera right there.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Which, yes, he actually used that camera well into the 90s, so he actually filmed a lot of his work on that camera. We also have, and I was actually just up at Ken Burns' office yesterday. Unfortunately, Ken wasn't there, but I did get to meet his dog.
Nice. What's his dog's name?
They didn't tell me his dog's name. He was very friendly, very friendly.
Sideburns.
I
just named him.
So yeah, they also are loaning to us a couple of pieces of equipment that Ken used, light meter and things like that. We have a plaque that Ken earned when he was a student at Hampshire. And then we have this enormous scrapbook with all sorts of clippings and articles from Ken's early years working on the Brooklyn Bridge and some of his other early 1980s projects.
The font that they used for the title card of Brooklyn Bridge is Albertus, which is the same font that John Carpenter uses for all his movies.
I knew it looked familiar.
People love picturing fonts on the radio.
Right?
Papyrus! Papyrus, no!
Tell them what you did. Tell them what you did!
You keep getting away with this!
We had Julio Torres on the show a couple weeks ago who wrote those sketches for Saturday Night Live.
The Avatar logo's papyrus and bold. The Avatar logo's papyrus and bold!
Is there any town you feel is more represented in this exhibit than others?
It's interesting in doing the research. We found that there's a lot more filming up in the northern part of the Pioneer Valley and a lot more people from the southern part. So like Springfield is way overrepresented in terms of people, and like Shelburne Falls and Deerfield are way overrepresented in terms of filming locations.
There is, on the way out of the exhibit, a coming attractions section. What's coming attractions that is Western Mass based in the world of television? Ray Radigan from Memorial Hall in Deerfield.
So we wanted to highlight what some of our people are up to nowadays. Ken Burns is working on he's promoting his American Revolution documentary.
It's called American Revolution 2, Electric Boogaloo, and it starts now.
It's a little bit of a departure for him. Then we also have things, a couple of these are out now, a couple of these are in the works, but Dexter Resurrection, Uma Thurman's going to be in that. Shifting Gears on television is created by Mike Scully from West Springfield. Sirens, which is now on Netflix, stars Megan Fahey. And we have coming up, I believe it's next year, is After the Hunt with Chloe Sevigny.
And Boston's own Io Debris, who was part of Wilco's Solid Sound Festival like 5 minutes before she was famous. Then for coming attractions in movies, and this is where we can get whatever Bob can tell us about his coming attraction. But Ray, first tell us about some of the other coming attractions that are Valley-based here at this exhibit.
We got some cool ones coming up. Another Simple Favor, which Elizabeth Perkins is in.
Woo!
Ebon Moss-Backrack is going to be in Avengers Doomsday. And then coming up, it's not going to be until 2027, but Ruth Carter is doing the costumes right now for the Thomas Crown Affair.
Starring Michael B. Jordan, looking sharp already in the promo poster.
He's all right. He's off to a good start.
Yeah. I mean, he looks sharp in anything.
Yeah.
That is a very good-looking man.
That's right. And the other coming attraction is Grendel. Written and directed by Robert Kraskowski from Turner's Falls, who's in this exhibit with us right now. We had you and Brian Henson on from Jim Henson Company. We've got the picture of Grendel up here on the wall with Jim Henson's signature on it. What is the latest that you can tell the general public about Grendel?
We've been building creatures and been hard at work on this movie. It's more like how movies were done in the 80s where it takes a long time. So this has been about 4 years in the making, but I can't say much more.
But when you can,
building a creature!
When you can, we'll have you on again.
Be happy to come back.
Are you ever going to do a movie that doesn't involve building some sort of suit for some sort of creature?
I've wondered that myself. Everything I've written ends up having some difficult creature that we have to figure out, and this one's no different.
What, Bob Kraskowski, is your favorite movie that is Western Mass based? Of all these movies we've talked about, do you have one that you're like, this is the best one?
My knee jerk was The Holdovers. I loved it. I saw it like 3 times in the theater. I've watched it a couple times since. I think it makes a great double feature with Scent of a Woman. Mm-hmm. It's both kind of these private school kids going off on a road trip with a curmudgeon that kind of learn how to love again.
Well, thank you, Ray, for giving us a tour of this exhibit. It's called the Pioneer Valley Picture Show. It opens this Saturday, and it's going to run all the way through the end of October. But there is some sort of scavenger hunt element?
There is a scavenger hunt element, which is going to be wrapping up on the 14th. We have an app-based scavenger hunt, which is totally free to participate. You just have to download the app, sign up, and then you can start playing. We have 50 challenges that take you all over the Pioneer Valley. Some of them you can do from home. They're more quiz questions, and some of them you have to go to the sites where either something's been filmed or there's some connection to a local, actor, director, or something like that. And we have all these prizes that have been donated to us by a ton of local organizations, restaurants, lots of pretty cool things you can win.
And you have to do it by September 14th?
September 14th is the deadline.
Thanks again to Memorial Hall in Deerfield. On the next Fabulous 413, we'll speak with Sudanese playwright Tumadir Yabril about her upcoming show at Holyoke Media, highlighting stories of conflict from her homeland. It's called An Epic of Violence.
And we'll prepare our taste buds for a cavalcade of flavors at Dare Bottle Shop in Lenox with Marion Ben Dare, and tell you how you can do the same at their upcoming Lenox Wine Festival.
And Live Music Friday brings an intoxicating blend of cumbia, psych rock, and surf as Tropa Magica joins us. I'm Monty Belmonte.
I'm Clea Smith. And maybe if you're in Northampton, come and see Extemper. We're playing at the library. Fun
today.
Times.